In the heart of modern Istanbul, tourists stroll across a long, narrow public square. They take photographs of the Blue Mosque, buy street food, and sit on benches in the sun. Most of them have no idea they are standing inside an ancient arena. Beneath their feet lies the track where horses once thundered at full gallop before crowds of 100,000 screaming spectators. Around them, now mostly vanished, rose the towering stone walls of a structure so central to the life of the Byzantine Empire that political power, street violence, religious controversy, and imperial ceremony all radiated outward from this single site. Emperors were crowned here. Emperors were overthrown here. A riot in this arena killed 30,000 people in a single week. And the treasures of the ancient world, stolen, gifted, or traded from across 3 continents, were assembled here as the greatest open-air art collection in medieval history. This is the story of the Hippodrome of Constantinople, and it is far stranger than most history books let on. The site of the Hippodrome was first developed under the Roman Emperor Septimius Severus around 203 CE, after he rebuilt the city of Byzantium following a siege. But the structure that would become one of the defining monuments of the medieval world was the creation of Emperor Constantine the Great, who massively expanded and rebuilt it, beginning around 324 CE, as part of his grand project to make Constantinople his new capital, the equal of Rome in every respect. The finished structure was extraordinary in scale. The track itself ran roughly 450 meters long and about 130 meters wide, comparable in size to the Circus Maximus in Rome, which Constantinople was consciously imitating and competing with. Seating capacity estimates vary between 60,000 and 100,000 spectators, making it one of the largest public venues in the ancient and medieval world. The arena was built on a sloping hillside, meaning one long side required a massive vaulted substructure, essentially a multi-story foundation of arches, to raise the seating to the level of the track. Parts of this substructure still survive today beneath Sultanahmet Square, occasionally visible and accessible to archaeologists. The Hippodrome was physically connected to the adjacent Great Palace of Constantinople by a private elevated passage, the Kathisma, through which the emperor could descend directly from his palace to the imperial box in the arena without passing through the public crowd. Power and spectacle, architecture confirmed, were the same thing. In the modern imagination, chariot racing might sound like a sport, entertainment for the masses, a crowd pleaser laid on by rulers to keep the population content, bread and circuses in the Roman tradition. And it was that. But in Constantinople, the Hippodrome was never just a sports venue. It was the only place in the empire where the emperor regularly appeared before the general public. In a culture where access to imperial power was tightly controlled, mediated through layers of court ceremony and bureaucracy, the Hippodrome was the forum where the population of Constantinople could actually see their ruler, cheer him, chant at him, and on occasion make their grievances impossible to ignore. The racing was organized around 4 factions: the Blues, the Greens, the Reds, and the Whites, each representing a team of charioteers with their own stables, funding, supporters, and organizational infrastructure. Over time, the Blues and Greens became by far the dominant factions, and their rivalry ceased to be purely about sport. They became something closer to political parties, street organizations, and occasionally private armies, with strong connections to different religious, social, and economic interest groups within the city. When a faction cheered or booed in the Hippodrome, they were sending political signals the emperor was expected to read and respond to. When they chanted together against him, it was a crisis. And as we're about to see, when they stopped fighting each other and started cooperating against the throne, the results could be catastrophic. January 532 CE. The emperor is Justinian I, one of the most ambitious rulers in Byzantine history, in the middle of a reign that would see him reconquer large parts of the former Western Roman Empire, codify Roman law into what became the foundation of European legal tradition, and commission the construction of the Hagia Sophia. But in January 532, none of that had happened yet. Justinian was an unpopular figure, his finance minister deeply hated, and tensions in the city were at breaking point. During a chariot race in the Hippodrome, supporters of the Blues and Greens began chanting together the single word, Nika, meaning conquer or win. directed not at a charioteer, but at the emperor himself. What began as crowd unrest in the arena spilled into the streets of Constantinople, and within days had become a full-scale urban insurrection. Rioters burned buildings across the city, including an earlier version of the Hagia Sophia that stood at the time. Rebels crowned a rival emperor in the Hippodrome. Justinian reportedly prepared to flee by ship. What stopped the revolt was one of the most dramatic decisions in Byzantine history. The Empress Theodora, a woman who had risen from extraordinarily humble origins, the daughter of a bearkeeper in the Hippodrome circus, reportedly addressed the imperial council and refused to flee. According to the historian Procopius, she said that the imperial purple was a fine burial shroud, and she would not abandon it. Justinian stayed. His general Belisarius was dispatched with troops. The rebel crowd, packed inside the Hippodrome celebrating what they believed was their imminent victory, found the exits blocked. In the slaughter that followed, estimates from ancient sources run as high as 30,000 dead. It remains one of the deadliest events to occur within a single building complex in recorded history. If the Hippodrome was politically the heart of the empire, aesthetically, it was something equally extraordinary. The single greatest concentration of ancient artworks anywhere in the medieval world, assembled from across the Roman world and beyond. Constantine and his successors treated the Hippodrome's central spine, the long dividing barrier down the middle of the track called the spina, as a prestigious display platform, filling it with statues, obelisks, columns, and monuments gathered from Egypt, Greece, Rome, and the wider Mediterranean. At its peak, the Hippodrome's collection reportedly included hundreds of bronze and marble statues. 3 of its most famous monuments survive or are partially traceable today. The first is the obelisk of Thutmose III, an ancient Egyptian obelisk originally erected at the Temple of Karnak around 1450 BCE and transported to Constantinople in the late 4th century CE. It still stands in Sultanahmet Square, one of the oldest man-made objects still in its original erected position anywhere in the world outside Egypt, and a direct physical link between the New Rome and the civilization of the pharaohs. The second is the Serpent Column, a bronze column originally cast in 479 BCE from the melted-down weapons of Persian invaders after the Greek victory at Plataea, and for centuries displayed at Delphi before being transferred to Constantinople. The lower portion of it still stands in Sultanahmet Square today, though its 3 serpent heads were damaged or removed centuries ago. The third, and perhaps most famous, is the group of 4 gilded bronze horses that once stood above the starting gates of the Hippodrome. These were famously looted during the sack of Constantinople in 1204 CE by the Fourth Crusade and taken to Venice, where they were installed above the entrance to St. Mark's Basilica. Replicas stand there today. The originals are now kept indoors in the Basilica's museum. The story of the Hippodrome's bronze horses leads directly into one of the most controversial and consequential events of the medieval period, the sack of Constantinople by the Fourth Crusade. The Fourth Crusade was supposed to go to the Holy Land to fight Muslims. Instead, through a combination of political manipulation, Venetian commercial interests, and internal Byzantine power struggles, the Crusader army ended up attacking and sacking Constantinople itself, a Christian city, in April 1204. It was one of the most shocking betrayals in medieval history, and its long-term consequences, including the weakening of the Byzantine Empire that would ultimately contribute to its final fall in 1453, reverberate across centuries. The Hippodrome was extensively looted during the 3 days of sacking that followed. The bronze statues that had stood on the spina for centuries, representing animals, mythological figures, and famous athletes, were melted down for their metal. The 4 horses were taken as prestige trophies to Venice. Countless other artworks vanished into the chaos. After 1204, the Hippodrome never fully recovered its former glory. When Byzantine rule was eventually restored in 1261, the resources and political will to restore it were simply no longer there, and it gradually fell into disuse. When the Ottoman Empire finally conquered Constantinople in 1453, the Hippodrome's racing days were long over. The Ottomans used the space as a public square, the Atmeidana, meaning horse square, and the site continued to be a center of public life in the city under its new rulers. Sultan Ahmed I built his Great Mosque, now known as the Blue Mosque, directly adjacent to the old Hippodrome site in the early 17th century, continuing the tradition of power and architecture occupying the same space that had defined this location for over a millennium. Of the Hippodrome's once spectacular fabric, most is gone. The seating banks were dismantled over centuries for building material. The bronze statuary was largely destroyed or looted. The elaborate starting gates, the imperial box, the Kathisma passage, all vanished. What remains is the narrow footprint of the old track, now Sultanahmet Square, and three of the ancient monuments from the Spina, the obelisk of Thutmose III, the Serpent Column, and the Column of Constantine, a plain masonry pillar. Between them, they span roughly 3,000 years of human history, from New Kingdom Egypt to ancient Greece, to late Rome, to Byzantium, to the Ottoman Empire, to today. Stand between them on a quiet morning before the tourist crowds arrive, and you are standing inside one of the longest, continually significant public spaces in recorded history. A chariot track that became a throne room, a sports rivalry that became a civil war, a collection of ancient art assembled from 3 continents, then looted, melted, and scattered. An arena that witnessed a massacre of 30,000 people, an empress who refused to flee, and the slow unraveling of an empire that had lasted 1,000 years. The Hippodrome of Constantinople doesn't exist anymore, but its footprint remains, and 3 of its monuments still stand in the open air, as they have for centuries. The next time someone tells you Istanbul is just a modern city with some old mosques, point them toward that narrow square and tell them what's beneath their feet. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of the ancient world's most extraordinary public spaces, hit subscribe for more unusual stories from ancient and medieval history, and let us know in the comments, which other lost monuments of the Byzantine world would you like us to cover?